Okay, today our topic is data categorization. In the last class, I have tried to introduce the data, mainly the data for data analytics task. Now today, we will go a little bit in depth about the data. So mainly, data are of different types, right? Now the question that arises is that what are the data that is possible and that needs to be analyzed. So there is a classification for categorizing different type of data, and this classification is popularly called Noir topology. NOIR. So first we shall learn about Noir topology. According to this Noir topology, all data can be categorized into 4 classes or 4 categories. They are nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scale data. We'll quickly cover the different varieties of data, and finally, I'll discuss multi-dimensional data. So in the data analytics, it is not that only high volume is the data by which data can be characterized, but at the same time, data can be characterized with more than one dimension. Now again, question that arises is that what do you mean by the dimension of a data and how the different dimensions are there? And if the data that is given to you with multiple dimensions, how such data can be stored and can be used? We'll elaborate the concept of multi-dimensional data in different applications with examples. So this is our plan, and today's class is a 2 hours class. If you need some break, let me know the same so that I can plan for 5 minutes break. Anyway, let's start our discussion. You can recall in the last class, I was talking about data, and I told that data represents a fact. For an example, a data represents a student, a data represents an employee, and so many, right? That is actually called entity. So in the field of data science, right, it is called entity. So what we can tell alternatively is that data represents an entity. Now, how data can represent an entity? For example, a student. A student can be characterized with number of what is called the components, or rather we can say attributes. For example, name of the student, roll number of the student, date of birth of the student, marks obtained in a semester for a course is also a data like this. So in this example, as you see here, okay, in this example, as you can see, so this is actually is a data, right? It is actually it looks in the form of a table. It looks in the form of a table, and in this table, if you see, this is actually an entity. This is actually an entity, right? And for this entity, as we see, and this is entity representing an employee. So employee is characterized with name, age, gender, salary, employer, so many things. And for each entity, you see, actually there are a number of columns, column 1, column 2, column 3, and so on and so on. So each column represents an attributes of the data. So name is an attribute, age is an attribute, gender is an attribute, and so many things are there. And for each attribute, if you see, there is a value. Okay, and this value can be of different type. In other words, an attribute can be of different types. Now, question that arises is that what are the different type of attributes that is possible? In this example, possibly you can understand the name is an attribute which can have the value of string of characters. On the other hand, age is another attribute which has the value of type numbers, so numerical values. Gender is again different. Salary may be different. Employers may be again different. Now, again, for an attributes, only one type of value can be stored. If age is a numeric attribute, you cannot store a string of characters. It is like that, okay? Anyway, so entity can be characterized with a set of attributes, and for each attribute, there are set of values. And these values are of different types. Now, we shall discuss about what are the basic types of the data which can be considered so in our data analytics activities. As I said, there are many types of data which can be used to define an entity. Now, these different types of data can be represented in the form of a scales, right? A scale is nothing but a measurement, right? So if you want to understand your data, first thing that is important is that what are the different scales are there to represent a data, right? Now, so actually why this scale is important, or why we should bother about, okay, a type of the data, whatever it is there, because you have to have a precise manipulation of the data, right? That means there should be a defined algorithms that can be used to process your data so that you can mine some information from it. Now, if your data is not precisely categorized, it will be very difficult to write an algorithm to process the data. So that is why we need a precise scale of measurement to represent each type of data that needs to be handled. This is obvious, okay, obviously important in many tasks like pattern identification, association, mining, anomaly detection, measurement of similarities, and so many other things are there. Anyway, in our data analytics activities, all those things are important. How to detect anomaly, how to find association, how to find the patterns, how to find the similarities between two data that is given to you, and so many things are there. Okay, so for this, data categorization is must. Now, for the categorization of data, there is a topology. It is called the Neuer classification. So it is called the classification of scales of measurement. According to this Neuer classification of scale of measurement, there are only 4 scales. These 4 scales are called nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. So taking the first letters of each type of scale, this is abbreviated as NOIR or Neuer scale. So Neuer scale, in fact, is a fundamental scale. What I want to say, using this scale, you will be able to represent some other data of complex types. For an example, this Neuer scale never say how to categorize an image data or video data or a text data. Rather, using a particular type, you will be able to define any other complex data, for example, an image data. So you will see that image can be represented maybe using only nominal or using nominal and ordinal both, or maybe interval, whatever it is there. Anyway, those things we shall discuss at the end of this discussion. So these are the fundamental, what is called the data type, we should say, and any other extended data type can be derived from all those data type only. That is why they are atomic in the sense. Okay. Now let's see one by one what is nominal, what is ordinal, what is interval, and what is ratio. So here is a big view, a little bit, okay, detailed view of the Neuer classification. So if we start from top, as we see, there are 4 different scales: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Now nominal again can be of many types. It can be binary, it can be ternary, and it can be quaternary, it can be pentenary, and so on, so on. Again, binary, if it is a type, then binary can be of symmetric binary or asymmetric binary. Then come to the ordinal. Ordinal can be alphabetical, can be numerical, can be literal. Similarly, for the interval type data, it can be discrete or it can be continuous. A ratio is also similar kind of things are there. Now, this is a taxonomy. This is a taxonomy of what are the types of data that can be had in your processing. Now, broadly, they can be categorized into 2 categories. They are called categorical and numerical. Categorical also alternatively called the qualitative. Numerical is also called quantitative. So your data can be either qualitative data or it can be a quantitative data. So these are the 2 broad classification, but a detailed classification is nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Under qualitative, they are nominal, ordinal, and then under quantitative, they are interval and ratio. I hope you are able to understand that, okay, what is the qualitative data, what is the quantitative data. If you don't understand it, we can elaborate it next with few more slides. Now, for all the types of data that we have discussed, they follow certain properties. These properties are characterized with what are the operations there, those are admissible on this type of data. Now, the first property, it is called the distinctiveness. And so far the distinctiveness properties is concerned, the operation those are applicable is equals or not equal. That means if 2 values is given to you, then using this operation equal, you can check whether they are same or not. Okay, so if x is a value and another value is y, so you can check whether x is equals to y or x is not equals to y. So this is distinctiveness property, right? Another is that ordering property or order property. Order means you know whether this is greater than or less than or greater than equals or less than equal. If x and y are the 2 values given, then you will be able to compare them whether x is greater than or greater than equal, less than or less than equals to this one. So this is called the ordering properties. Now addition properties. Addition property is plus and minus. They are called summing. So you will be able to sum or you will be able to get a new value given that 2 values x and y by performing operation x plus y or x minus y. Then multiplication properties are the star and division. It is called the multiplication and division actually. So there are multiplicative properties it is called. Earlier is additive properties. So if you have given 2 values x and y, you will be able to find a new value performing operation x star y or x division y. Now first 2 properties are applicable to qualitative or categorical data. The last 2 properties are applicable to numerical or quantitative data. So we have understood what are the operations actually are possible on the data. Now you may ask question that okay, only these are the operations are enough to okay manipulate our data. My answer is that My answer is that yes, only these operations are fundamental operations by which we can manipulate any type of data. But in our real life things, actually a complex operation is nothing but is the composition of all these operations. So a complex operation may take maybe plus, minus, star, division, greater than, equals, and so many things are there. So they are comprising only these kind of operations. And that is why if you know C programming language, and if you have to handle the data or variable, you know these are the different operations are built-in operation or primitive operations there. But again, in the C programming language, like you know, using those built-in or primitive operation, you can divide or you can customize your some operations. They are called the abstract operation. So that is what I was talking about. Abstract operation is possible. Customization of a particular operation is possible, comprising all these operations. I can tell you an example. Suppose image is in data, and an operation is zooming, zoom in, zoom out. You know possibly what do you mean by that. Now, essentially, zoom in and zoom out is an abstract operation, but you can carry out this operation by applying any one of the operation which will be required for that purpose. So this is the idea that is there. Okay, now let's proceed further. I was talking about 4 different types: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. All nominal data satisfy only distinctiveness property. Nominal data never satisfy either ordering, additive, or multiplicative property. On the other hand, ordinal data satisfies both distinctiveness as well as ordering property. Interval data satisfy additive property as well as property of the ordinal data. This means it will satisfy both distinctiveness, ordering property, and additive property. The ratio scale data satisfy multiplicative properties as well as property of internal data. In this sense, ratio scale data is called the stronger data. This is because it allows you all possible operations to be applied on this kind of data. Okay, so this is the concept. Now we shall discuss each type of data with examples and how the different operations can be possible, so that you can understand your 4 different varieties of data in a clear manner. So let's start about first nominal data. So I should say it is a nominal scale. You know what is actually scale. A scale is used to measure some entity or some attributes, right? A scale is used. For example, weight is an attribute, right? You can measure this weight. Either using different scale is possible. Whether you can use a kilogram, or it is a pound, or in other things, right? So scale is right. And you know, temperature is a different scale, Fahrenheit scale, centigrade scale, and Kelvin scale, whatever it is there. Now, so different scale actually have the different unit of measurement, actually, right? Now, anyway, so nominal scale, let's see what exactly the thing it is. So using this nominal scale, a data can take a value among a set of mutually exclusive codes. This is very important that you can, right? You should know about it. It is actually among a set of mutually exclusive code. Now, this is important, exclusive codes. Now, let us clear with an example. Suppose gender is an attribute, right? Now, what are the different values that is possible for these attributes? They are called the set of mutually exclusive code. For an example, a gender can be represented by male, it can be represented by female, maybe 3 different values also, M, F, and T. T stands for transgender. For an example, okay, so this is the example, right? Now, similarly, this is also alternatively. M and F, you can represent 1 and 0. If transgender is included, then maybe that you can use 2 in addition to 1, 0, and 2, this one. So 1 stands for male, 0 stands for female, and 2 stands for transgender. So this is an example of a nominal type. So gender actually a nominal type. Now similarly, blood group. Your blood group can be of 4 different set of values, and you see mutually exclusive. That means that they are exclusive, right? 2 different things cannot be used to define the same thing actually. So that is not inclusive. Okay, so exclusive. Now your blood group can be of A, B, A, B, O. Similarly, RH factor of your blood group also can be like plus and minus. Now you can tell why plus or why minus. I can tell about, no, this is not plus. I can tell about, so it is a star and it is a hash. Yeah, that is fine. That you can do. You have the complete liberty to use any symbols to represent any code, because you have to represent code. But plus and minus, they are the well-chosen code, and it is a standard practice. Everybody follows, and it becomes a unification process and universal. So that is why. Similarly, blood group also A, B, A, B, O. If you tell that A, B, C, D, that could be better for my understanding. Yeah, so anything. So any symbol for the gender male, female, you could write X and Y also to represent X for male, Y for female, like this one. So it is just matter of symbol, which symbol you use, that up to you in your representation. But as we know, we are in a society, and then it is not that only your choice is enough. So it should be conformed to the standard, right? So far the standardization is concerned, we usually consider a unique symbol to represent a particular type of data. That is what here. Now for an example, country code. Country code, you know, that code can be represented by some numerical value as well as some code value. For example, for India, country code is 91, right? But it can be also alternatively .in like. IN stands for India, AU stands for Australia, UK stands for United Kingdom, and so on. CN for Canada, like this one. And then for each country, you know, there is a different code. And all these type of data are of type nominal. Now here, you should note few important things. The nominal scale is used to label a data, and it should be labeled using a consistent naming convention. That is actually, it will conform to a standard that is followed and acceptable to all of us. And as you have noted, this label, actually it is called, can be numbers, letters, strings, enumerated constants, that means any values, or any other symbols that you can realize from the keyboard or any your digital device. Nominal data therefore makes a category of set of data. That is why it is called the categorical data. I have already mentioned that it is a categorical data. The number of categories, that means the number of unique symbols that can be there in order to represent a particular attributes, can be any values. This can be any number. For example, in gender, I told only 2 or 3 values, but you can think about, if it is applicable, it can be 4 values. For the blood group, it is 4, RH it is 2, and likewise. But anyway, this should be countably finite. It is not that infinite symbols will be used to represent an attribute, which is useless or meaningless. Okay. So any attributes of type nominal should have a finite set of distinct values. Now, there are few more points that you should note. A nominal data may be numerical in form. Okay, in example that I have already given, gender can be in the form of characters M and F, small or capital letters, whatever it be. Also, it can be expressed in terms of numerical values like 0, 1, 2. So it is called constant, right? But the numerical values does not resembles to any quantization. So 0 does not quantify that it is 0 or no entity. 1 means only single entity, 2 means double entity. They are just simply a symbol or a representative. For example, a prisoner's, right, okay, symbol or level is say 100, 100. It does not mean that he is the top ranker or worst ranker. It's not like that. Okay, so the numbers are just, or the symbols just used to labelize a particular entity. That's all. It does not give any addition or subtraction or any other operation actually. So 2 prisoners number cannot be added to give you another prisoners, or it is not like that. Okay. So in that sense, all these nominal scale applicable to only whether the 2 levels are same or not same or dissimilar. That means only operation that you can apply is equal or not equal. That is why they only satisfy the distinctiveness property. Further, these levels do not have any ordering. So 2 prisoners, 100 and another is 999. It does not give any ordering between the 2. All the prisoners are same except their level is different. Similarly, blood group B is better or worse than blood group A. You cannot tell like that. Only the thing is that blood group is a characterization of a particular type. Now, this is important. That levels from different attributes can be merged or combined to give another symbols or another new, what is called a nominal variables. Here, for an example, blood group and Rh factor can be combined to have another type, A plus, A minus, AB plus, and etc. So you can see A plus actually is a combination of 2 nominal values and it giving another nominal values. So combination is possible. Now, so far the nominal data is concerned, again, they can be divided into two other binary or not binary categories. First, let us discuss about what is the binary scale of the nominal type. A nominal variable, if it is defined exactly with 2 symbols, and for that symbol no logical order is applicable, then it is called a binary scale. So a nominal is of type binary if it has only 2 what is called the values. Here, for an example, switch can be expressed defining on and off, or 0 and 1, or 1 and 0, whatever it is there. Attendance true or false, or 1 or 0. Entry yes or no, all this. As you see, they are binary. They are only binary. So a binary nominal variable is with only 2 possible outcome. Okay. Now again, other than binary, if it is a ternary, then only
Sir, please unmute yourself. You are muted. Sir, please unmute yourself. You're muted.
How long it is? Why didn't mention it earlier?
So just now,
Just 1 minute.
explaining tertiary, sorry, primary.
Okay, I don't know, automatically. I have not done anything. Anyway, now you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so that's fine. So should I start from last slide or only from this slide?
So start
This
from
slide.
binary.
The previous one, binary scale.
Okay, from the binary scale. I was discussing about nominal type, and I told that nominal can be of different, what is called the values. So if a nominal type consists of only two values, then that nominal type is called binary scale nominal. Right? So for an example, as you see gender, if your gender consists of only two value M and A, then I can say gender is a binary nominal scale. On the other hand, gender can also be a ternary nominal scale if it has three different symbols allows. That means three different values are allowed here. For example, male, F, M, F, and T. So a nominal can be binary, it can be ternary, it can be n-ary. N can be any value greater than 2 or so. That means how many different symbols that will be used to uniquely represent an attribute, it decides whether it is a binary nominal or ternary nominal or n-ary nominal. Okay. Now again, the binary type can be of two different patterns or two different variations. They are called symmetric binary or asymmetric binary. So a nominal can be binary, and if it is binary, then it can be symmetric or asymmetric. Now, what do you mean by the symmetric binary? Suppose gender. Gender has the two different possible values, male and female. Now, in your data set, if the probability that the number of records with the attribute gender has the same, that was the gender is equals to male and female, that means male and female are of equal, right, ratios or equal percentage, then I can say that this gender is a symmetric binary. On the other hand, another attribute, say food preference. Food preference, again binary, it can be veg or it can be non-veg. Because food can be of two different types like V or NV. Now, if you invite some members in your gatherings, then it is not likely that 50% are vegetarian and 50% are non-vegetarian. You may find it that 60% or 70% are vegetarian, whereas 30% are non-vegetarian. If the two different type of values are not of equal proportion, then that is called the asymmetric. So nominal binary can be symmetric and asymmetric depending on the proportion of the value that it may have in an application. Now let's come to the operation. By the time you have understood that only two operations are possible on any two values of this type, that is equal or not equal. That is the distinctiveness. Now using this nominal type of attribute value, what other processing that you can obtain, it is actually the summary statistics. Actually, whenever the data that is given to you, we learn about the statistical processing is there or statistical learning is there. And this statistical learning includes calculation of mean, median, mode, variance, standard deviation, and so on. But so far, if your attribute is nominal, whether it is binary, ternary, okay, we should not bother about it. Let it be binary, and whatever it is symmetric, asymmetric, that is also not botheration. It can be anything. But the operation or statistical operation that is applicable on nominal data is only the mode operation. That means you can find the mode only. So mode is actually based on the only distinctiveness calculation. That is why only it is possible. But for other operation, mean or median, whatever it is there, either ordering or some additive or other operation is required. As all the operation is not applicable to nominal, so only mode operation is possible. And as you see that other arithmetic operation, plus, minus, that means addition or multiplication, not at all applicable, and logical operation, which actually used for ordering, it is also not applicable. Okay, so these are the different operations that you can apply on these nominal type of values, and mainly they are used for reading, checking, or verifying, and then maybe okay for coding purpose or revising the coding, using some non-overlapping symbol, etc. is possible. Nominal data can be visualized. That means if a set of values is given to you, and if you want to plot the values in the form of a graph, then again all possible graphs are not applicable. Only line charts, bar charts, pie charts, all these things are applicable. Now, as I already mentioned that two or more nominal variables can be combined to generate a new nominal variables. For example, gender and marital status. Gender can be of two types, two symbols, M and F. Marital status may be single, married, divorcee, or widows. A male can be a single or married. So in that case, I could write M and S, both together MS. So a new symbol will be generated. Similarly, F and D, the two symbols, if it is there, then this symbol is another nominal value representing that it is a female gender and a divorce. So this is the concept, right? Okay, so these are the different operations that you can do it on the nominal type of data. Now let's come to the discussion of ordinal scale. Ordinal scale, as the name implies, it supports ordering. Ordering means you can arrange them in an order, top to bottom order, or low to high order, and so on, or increasing order or decreasing order. Now let's see what exactly the ordering capabilities are there, and is an example. Now you know to represent the different size of the desk materials. What are the different sizes are possible? It can be defined using S. S stands for small, M for medium, L for large, extra large. Now you see, it looks like obviously symbolic, but these symbols, unlike nominal, it implies certain ordering. So then definitely you will be able to compare. That comparison means in the form of ordering, S and L. That means S is in a lower side, L is in a higher side. That kind of impression that you can have is not it. But if it is an M and F gender, you cannot say that M is lower side, F is higher side, or there is no ordering. Okay, no ordering. So this is why they satisfy the ordering property. And so far the ordering property is concerned, there are many relational operations are there, like less than or greater than or less than equals, greater than equals is applicable. That means you will be able to compare. If you have given two ordinal values, say S and M, then whether S less than M or S greater than M or S less than equals to M, that you will be able to conclude. Okay, so that is why they are under that ordering operations. Now, so far the different, right, other than relation operations are there. What you can measure about using this ordinal data is that, like categorical data, which we have discussed in the form of nominal, it is mode operation is possible, and as the median requires some ordering, because in order to calculate the median of values, you have to arrange all the data in an increasing or decreasing order, and then finding the middle values. That will give you the median. So as it is, ordering is possible, given a set of ordinal values, then median calculation is possible. So mode and median, both the operations, though these two statistical operations are applicable. Ordinal data can be again ranked. That is why they are called the ranked scale. And numerically or alphabetically, whatever it is there. Ordering data can be in the form of numerical value, but this numerical value does not give the sense that it is a quantization. It is just simply a symbol. But this symbol, in addition to the categorical value, it also ordering. And the alphabetical is also, for example, small, medium, large, they are alphabetical only. Okay. And then as they can be used for a ranking purpose, so percentile measurements on the ordering data is also possible, right? And calculation based on orders are also applicable, such as you can follow count, mean, max, etc. Now, correlation analysis we will discuss about. So this is also another statistical analysis approach. It is called the predictive analysis. It is called the descriptive analysis. So there are many descriptive analysis is possible. One descriptive analysis is in the form of Spearman's R calculation. So the Spearman R calculation can be applicable to ordinal data only. Okay. But for other data, for example, categorical data, the descriptive analysis that is possible, it is called the chi-square analysis. Okay. Now, numerical variable can be transformed. This is very important that you can, right? You can note it. Numerical variable can be transformed into ordinal variable. Numerical variable we are going to discuss next. This is another type in the Neuer topology. So a numerical value can be converted into ordinal variable. As an example, I can tell you, for example, age. Age is a numerical attribute, the number 1, 2, 3 up to 100. We can convert this numerical value into ordinal attributes. For example, 1 to 20, we can categorize them as an young. Then 21 to 40, we can categorize them middle-aged. Then 40 and above, we can categorize old. Okay. So this way, any value in between 1 and 20, both inclusive, is a young is a ordinal value, and so on. Now, as you can see, so this is a transformation. In many situations, such a transformation is very useful. But all this transformation is at the cost of loss of information. For example, young, actually it represents 1 as well as 20 years old person. So you will lose the information what exactly the age of the young people is. Anyway, so this transformation is possible. So transformation from numerical to ordinal. But the reverse transformation from ordinal to numerical is not possible. Now let's come to the interval scale. Now interval scale, so name implies that each value is having a precise interval. This interval, for example, the two values of ages. If it is a age of a person, age of two persons, then the actually age can be of different interval. Interval may be years, or interval can be defined by months. Interval can be defined by days, or it can be defined by decades, or whatever it is there. You understand? So different intervals can be used. For example, for the measurement of weight, the different interval can be followed, right? It depends on in which unit you want to measure this value. Weight can be measured in different units, height can be measured in different units, and so on. So there are many such interval scale data actually we are to deal with, like weight, height, latitude, longitude, weather regarding pressure, temperature, the calendar dates, and so many things. They are interval scale. data, right? So they can be used for continuous measurement of a roughly linear scale. Now again, the scale is usually the linear scale, but not necessarily linear scale. Some non-linear scales are also known, but we usually use the linear scale. But from the linear scale, we can convert in the non-linear scale. For example, if you can transform by a logarithmic value or some other, right, it can be converted into linear to non-linear scale. Say suppose salary of an employee will varies from a high range of values from maybe $5 to $5 billion, right? Then in that case, it is better to measure with a non-linear scale other than the linear scale. Because if it is a linear scale, you will not be able to plot in a graph because the variation is so, and then you will not be able to distinctly mark the variation. So non-linear scale can be useful to that. Anyway, so interval data are with well-defined interval. It is always, okay? And that interval range or the difference between the two values, consecutive two values, will be different depending on in which unit or unit measurement scale that you are using. Now, very important one, another concept is that interval data are measured on a numerical scale with positive value, negative value, and in between positive and negative 0. For example, if you measure your temperature in centigrade scale, so temperature can be -10 degree or temperature can be 40 degrees centigrade, or also temperature can be 0 degrees centigrade. So actually the interval scale can range is even plus infinity to minus infinity and including 0 both. So this is important that interval data has a 0 point on origin. But this 0, this is important that this 0 does not mean that no existence. That means if we say the temperature is 0 degree, I should not say that there is no temperature or no heat, nothing is there. So 0 degree actually it is a state. It represents a state of a thermal system. So 0 point is just only to measure a state, not that it is a no less entity, it is like that. Now, the different operations that we can apply on interval data, whatever the operations are applicable to all categorical like nominal and ordinal, also applicable to interval data. In addition, additive properties are applicable. For example, date is an interval data, and you can add some value to this date, or you can make a difference between the two dates to find how many days between the two dates. So plus operation as well as minus operations are applicable there. But you can note that for ordinal, you cannot apply plus or minus. Now negation, changing the sign, and multiplication by a constant are also permitted. It is not necessary for all. For example, if it is a date, minus date does not give any meaning, but it is anyway, it's okay, it is there. And similarly, multiplication is also not applicable, but it is right for some other type, it can be. All operations on ordinal data defined are also valid here that I have told you, and some linear transformation. If x is a interval value, then it can be multiplied by a constant, and also some constant can be added to that result to give you a new value. And this new value is again interval value. That is called the transformation. It's a linear transformation, right? Some other non-linear or affine transformations are also possible. In addition, there are also non-linear transformation also applicable, like applying log values or exp or sine, cos, or etc. also can be applicable. So a numerical value. So interval data essentially numerical data that can be carried out using only plus and minus operation. I should say if the two interval data it is given to you, you cannot perform multiplication. Two dates, if it is given to you of interval data, you cannot multiply date 1 and date 2 to get another, okay, meaningful information. So multiplication or division is not possible. Okay, and so this is the difference that, okay, this is actually the categorization of interval data. Interval data can be transformed to nominal or ordinal, but this transformation with at the cost of loss of information. Interval data can be graphed using line graph, bar chart, and all those things. Those are things there. In addition, it can also be graphed using histogram and frequency polygon. These are the different data visualization, what is called the procedure that can be there. Now let's come to the discussion of ratio scale. See, we are discussing about numerical data, and there are two different scale for the numerical data representation. One is interval scale and another is ratio scale. So we have discussed about the interval scale, and there are many what is called the attributes, right, which can be expressed only interval scale. You can, okay, if I tell you some attributes, say time. Now, if you tell me the time, whether interval scale or ratio scale, okay, that is important. Now let's see how we can categorize it. So first, let us start about what is the ratio scale. Interval data with a clear definition of 0 are called ratio data. Now, so numerical entity of two types, interval and scale. Now, interval we have learned about. Now let's see what is the difference between the interval and ratio, so that we can understand ratio scale data better. In case of interval data, right, 0 is present, and this 0 is just to represent that it is a state. But in case of ratio scale, right, a clear definition of 0, there is no, okay, in case of interval scale, the 0 definition does not mean that it is the ultimate thing, it is the extreme. But in case of ratio scale, 0 is the ultimate thing, 0 is the extreme. This means that in a ratio scale, there is no negative, what is called the measurement or negative value is possible. Now I can tell you, if you say temperature in degree centigrade or temperature in degree Fahrenheit, then the temperatures in degree centigrade or in degree Fahrenheit, they are interval data. On the other hand, if you express the temperature in Kelvin scale, right, then that value should be in the ratio scale. This is because in Kelvin scale temperature, 0 is the absolute, okay, temperature. Below 0, there will be no temperature. So no matter can exist whose temperature go down below 0 degree Kelvin. Similarly, earthquake. Intensity of earthquake we usually measure using one instrument. It is called the Richter instrument. So it is called the Richter scale. That is again the ratio scale. Below 0 or negative earthquake, there is no question, right? It is a 0 means that there is no earthquake. It can be again large value 5.5 or any things it is there, absolutely no problem. Similarly, sound intensity in decibel, cost of an article. Cost of an article cannot be a negative value like, hello? Hello, yes? আচ্ছা আপনি আমাকে একটা ডিস্টার্ব করছেন কেন বলুন তো? আমি একটা ক্লাসে আছি, বারবার ফোন করে যাচ্ছে। প্লিজ আপনি আমাকে 12টার পরে ফোন করুন। Cost of an, I'm sorry, cost of an article, population of a country, all these are the ratio scale. So you can understand they are called ratio scale because 0 is not admissible. I mean, sorry, 0 is admissible, and 0 admissible means it is an ultimate things are there. Below 0 it is not there. And one more difference, so far the operation is concerned, for the ratio scale data, the multiplication and division is possible. Now, two weights cannot be multiplied together to find any other weights, but you can multiply two ratio scale value to get another measurement, or this kind of things are there. So actually all ratio data are interval data, but the reverse is not true in that sense. In ratio scale, both difference between data values and ratios of non-zero data pairs are meaningful. And like interval, these can be linear or non-linear also. It is quite possible. Now you can note down that if you use the C programming language, then possibly you can use how to represent this numerical data. So this programming language can tell you to store the numerical value, but they cannot distinguish whether this numerical value is either interval scale or in the ratio scale. So interval scale and ratio scale coming in the picture of data analytics from the point of view whether zero means it is an absolute representation or it is only an indication, right? Or it is only a state representation. And to distinguish this, only the ratio scale is there and it is coming. So zero is non-existing in case of ratio scale. That is why division multiplication that you can do, right? Because you can divide something by divide some ratio scale, and if it is not zero, then it is defined, right? If it is zero, then undefined. It is like that. Anyway, so this is about the interval scale and ratio scale are the two numerical quantitative data that is used in our data analytics thing is there. And any sort of linear transformation of the form AX plus B divided by C are applicable, and like this one. Okay, so we have discussed about different types of data that we have to work with so far our data analytics is concerned, and they are the fundamental scale for measuring data or representing your data. Now I will discuss about little bit, extension of that one. What is the multidimensional data? Now here you see a student can be represented by a number of attributes. So each attributes actually define one dimension. For example, a point can be represented using two-dimensional or three-dimensional or n-dimensional in an Euclidean space. So if it is in a 2D Euclidean space, then only x value and y value, they are actually x represents and y represents are the two orthogonal axes to represent any point on a plane. Any point on a plane. So it is a two-dimensional. Similarly, it can be one-dimensional. If it represents only one, so suppose a point on a straight line, right? That means your point can be with only one line, so only one dimension. But if you represent a location on a plane, then you need at least two dimensions, right? So two dimension, a point can be two dimension. And if you want to locate a location in a space, then you may need three dimension. And if you want to add time as another dimension, that means how the location varies with time, then x, y, z, and t. So fourth dimension. So this way, the multiple dimensions are coming to represent a data, whether it is a position or it is a student. The student's attributes like name, age, date of birth, roll number, marks obtained in different subjects, each attributes represents one dimension, or they are also called the features of the student data. So if more than one features are there, then we can say the data is with multi-dimensional data. Now in our real life application, we are most of the time to handle with multi-dimensional data only. For example, student data or employee data, or even to represent an image. For example, an apple, right? So what are the different features that you can use to represent an apple? It can be many things. What is the size? What is the color? What is the texture? What is the weight? And all these things together to represent a fruit. And then you can discriminate one representation to another by means of only these feature values. So these way multi-dimensions in our real life is obvious. Now let's see how such a multi-dimensional data can be represented, rather can be stored. Now this concept come into the discussion, it is called the data cube. Now let us first understand what do you mean by the cube. A cube is obvious things that a cube is with only two, it is a solid object. A cube is a solid object which can be defined with 3 dimensions only. One may be width, height, and then length. So length and width and height. These are the 3 dimensions by which a cube can be represented. Now, for each dimension, there will be one particular value, that is the actual value. So it's just like a cube in a 3-dimensional point is just like a fact is basically the location, a particular position of an object, okay, maybe a bird or an aeroplane or a fly, whatever it is there. So it is actually where it is located. So this is the value. So x1 value, y value, z value, values are there. But it is represented by 3 dimensions. So x dimension, y dimension, z dimension. So dimension and then fact, they represents the concept of to store a data in a 3 dimension. That is called the data cube. Now interesting point is that a data cube can be used to represent higher dimensional data as well as. That means if your data is 4 dimension, then you can use a data cube to represent a 4 dimensional data. You can use 100 dimensional data to represent using this data cube. So this is an interesting, okay, on composition where the data scientists can propose, and we are going to learn it. Now let us learn it with an example. You possibly know rainfall data. Rainfall data that we received from the satellite or from the ground station, and usually our meteorological department process this data for many reasons. So rainfall data, how typically it is look like? We can collect the data with reference to time and for the different locations in a place. So time can be again varying with year, season, month, week, day, like. Similarly, location can be again varying with country, maybe state, and within the state district, and within the district maybe panchayat or municipal. So it is like this, right? So rainfall data, as you can see, have a very abstract representation to very detailed representation, which is something can be considered as a good example of a multi-dimensional data. Now let us start with the concept first, then I will come to the data cube, how this data cube can be used to represent this concept. Actually, if you use Excel, it is in the Microsoft Office software system. Excel is a good example of a data cube, but we don't know how they use the data cube concept into the Excel sheet. Anyway, okay, I will come to the discussion regarding Excel sheet. So if you can understand Excel sheet, you will be able to understand the data cube concept very clearly. Now let's consider rainfall data, okay? And then let's see what are the different compositions are there. Now here we see the 2D view of rainfall data. It is a 2-dimensional view of rainfall data. So as you know, two-dimensional view of a data can be stored in the form of a table. A table is characterized with number of rows and number of columns. In this example, as you see, year versus month data is plotted. In a particular year, say 2010, and for 12 months, if we want to store the data, we can do that, right? So it is a 2D view of a rainfall data with which we can obtain how much rainfall occurs in a particular year and for a particular month. So in the month of July in 2009, how much rainfall occurs, we can get it from this kind of data representation. This all, right? Now suppose this is the view represents the data for a particular region. Say it is a northeast region. So in this 2D representation, the rainfall for northeast regions for 10 years are stored and we can obtain it for our data processing. Now what will happen if we want to store the data not only northeast but for the some other region, say maybe eastern region of the country, western region of the country, southern region or northern region, like this. So what you can do? Okay, it is very easy. I can use another table, and this table is, if it is for northeast, then I can maintain another table for east region only. I can maintain another table. So many regions are there, so many tables are to be maintained. That's all. Okay, so essentially more than two. So here again, 2D representation data for a northeast. Now if a region is another dimension, so it becomes 3-dimension data. Now here you see how 3D rainfall data can be stored using our trivial approach, or you can say a very not an intelligent approach. So this is the region can be a dimension, and for the different tables can be maintained for the different regions. So it is essentially a 2D view of 3D data. It is essentially a 2D view of a 3D data. Now there can be better way of, for example, if you know C programming, yes, I can store one-dimensional data. How? I can define an array. I can store two-dimensional data. How? I can define a 2D array. Yes, I can store 3D data also in C programming. How? I can define 3-dimensional array. Yeah, exactly. So fine, but beyond 3D, if you want to have it in your programming language, then you will be able to do that. Your language may support it, but you know, logically it is good, but actually processing is erroneous. And apart from the processing, conceptualization is also not so simple. If the conceptualization of 2D is very simple, 3D is bit hard, but higher than 3D and others, it is really very difficult. Now here is the idea about it. Now this is the concept. You see how the data cube representation is possible. Now here if you see it is there in this figure, right? Here, as you see, a data cube look like. So in this data cube, and now say suppose it is, now suppose it is one dimension, that is we want to store the month-wise data, and this is another dimension, we want to store year-wise data, and this is another dimension where we want to store the different regions of data. So if this is the one slice or one piece that you can have, and this is actually the 2D data, and another, so this is the 2D data for a region. So another, if we stack with another 2D data for 3D region, then we can store the regions. So this way, the regions, the month and year can be stored. That's fine. So it is actually essentially 3D matrix. So 3D matrix is fine. So first dimension or the first index can be for year, second for month, and then third can be for region, or first may be for region, then second and third for the year and month, that up to your logical description. So this is the 3D view of rainfall data. Okay, essentially 3D matrix. Now let's come to the point. Say suppose using this concept, you can represent the data of several regions in a country. Absolutely not a problem. Now, question that arises is that, no, I want to store the result of not a country, but the entire continent. I want to store the result of, say, Asia continent like this. Then different countries come into the picture: India, China, Russia, Pakistan. Okay, for every country I can store it. Now, putting all the data from all countries, how the continent rainfall data can be stored so that my processing system can process it and predict the rainfall for this region or whatever it is here. Now, here again you see the 3D view model, or it is actually called the data cube model, works for you. Data cube, this will help you to use a 3D view of the rainfall data even for the contingent like this. Now let's see what is the data cube representation of the rainfall data for a continent, even for the entire world. Here is the picture that you can see how the data cube representation can be stored in the form of a data cube. It is actually called the data cube aggregation. Now here you see what is the idea. Idea is that this is the whole world data or whole continent data is stored, right? And this may be one continent, this may be another continent, this may be another continent. And within this continent, this may be one country, this may be one country, and this may be one country. And if you go to that country, then you can find the different, okay, data cube, right? And if it is that many regions are there, so from this country we can go it, and then this one. So at the core level, actually is a 3D, but using this 3D, you can have a very larger dimension into there also. So you can understand that 2D data can be transformed into 3D, and 3D can be for country, for a regions data, for countries data, for continent data, for all data, and even the country have the many regions, that means many dimension, absolutely not a problem. Whatever with the region, absolutely not a problem, we will be able to hold it. Now the question is that we can understand the concept, but what is the implementation? What is the actual, right, programming or processing or the storing or structure or all this? Obviously, this is a bigger view of the computer science approach, which is beyond the scope of this discussion here. But there are many tools are available which will help you to store the high dimensional data very compact way. And again, the representation includes the retrieval. That means if you want to store it, you will be able to find it quickly also. So how fast retrieval is there. So there are different operations like roll up, drill down. So roll up means you can place one cube on the top of other cube. That means one country's data can be added with the existing other country's data. Drill down means if you can, okay, bring one country's data from the collection of different countries' data. Similarly, from a different countries' data, you can again get the different regions' data. From the different regions' data, you can get the different month or year data. That is what is called the slicing operation. So there are three major operations: roll up, drill down, and slice operation, by which you can keep on adding data. You can get some, okay, contingent data, or you can get some smaller data from the larger set of data. These kind of things are there. So roll up, if it is the data cube aggregation, then all these drill down and slice is called the data cube segregation. So that there is a tools for specialized training is required, and it is very easy. It is not so much difficult, so that you can handle it. So essentially, the multidimensional data can be effectively stored using this data cube concept. Okay, fine. Now, so this is a concept, it is there. Now let us have a discussion about some more complex data representation. Okay, here is an example. You know, a document. A document can be one para only, like a small message in your messaging system, like a mobile phone or tablet. It can be a few pages. Number of pages may be anything, like a very large book. Even a digital document can be spread over the library also. Whole library like this one. Now possibly you are getting some idea about. Let us first consider how a sentence can be stored. A sentence can be of any length. That means it can be of any characters. Say a sentence can be of 80 characters or 100 characters. How it can be stored? Yeah, simple idea. I can use a character array. You know data structure and then C programming and then how array can be defined and how it can be array is used to store different type of data, integer data, floating point data, long int, short int, even the character also, string also like this one. Okay, fine. So a sentence can be stored using an array of characters. That array can be of fixed size, that is called a static array. The array can be of variable size, it can be a dynamic array. Whatever it is there, we can store a sentence of any length. I hope you should agree with me, right? Now, if you can store a sentence, then what is your difficulty to store a para? Yes, no problem. I can have certain specification by which where the end of a line and then end of a sentence and then end of a para occurs. Now, if you can store a para, then what is the problem to store a page or a several pages? Then this way you can store the entire book. Okay, so what I want to say that if you are capable to store a word, then you are fit for storing a sentence and then fit for storing a page, several pages, and therefore storing a book. So this is the document. Rather, we can say text document. Our text document is a very important data used in data analytics. Our Wikipedia is a collection of a large corpus of text document, and they follow some techniques by which they can be stored. So in addition to the physical storing, they also use some linking so that data can be quickly linked. I mean, a text can be quickly linked, and due to that link, you can jump from one part to another part. So this concept comes there in the text is called the hyperlink. So it is called the hypertext document. That means from a document, you can jump from the another document. So this essentially give an idea about storing the entire library. So Wikipedia is nothing but a very big library. Okay, is a digital repository and a collection of huge corpus library. So it is called the concept of hypertext document. Now I hope you have understood a hypertext document essentially a high dimensional data. And then what are the dimension? You can say the dimension at the basic level is a single character. Then it can be defined by a length. Length can be defined by a width. So entire things can be a page. And then one page, next page. So it is a 3D cube model and so on, so on. And then if it is a particular base cube, there is a link, then it can represent another cube. And this way the hypercube is there. And then essentially data cube. So this way your large text data can be stored and then you can use for many application, for example, for the similarity checking or plagiarism detection, or maybe used for any other purpose, like you say sentiment analysis or any anomaly detection or many other purpose. So this is the one way of representing the data that is the most obvious data in our application. Okay, this is a very nice picture. Of course, it is a hand-drawn, and it essentially represents an image. So this is a color image. Okay, forget about the color in this image. Let's see the monochrome image, only black and white. Okay, now tell how you can store this image in your system. What are the dimensions are there? I am repeating again, it is a color, it is not a color image, it is a binary image, only black and white. Right? How can store?
Two-dimensional array.
Two-dimensional array.
It is simply a two-dimensional array. Very good. And what is that? So dimension, and what are the fact? What is the values in these entries?
0 and 1.
It is the pixel value.
Pixel
So
value.
at each pixel, we can write the intensity of the color.
0 and 1, right? Because it is a binary, what black and white.
White is not three-dimensional, sir. It can be red, green, blue pixel and
Yeah,
width and height.
exactly. I'm coming to that one. Let's first solve it. Now, so a binary image you can comfortably store in the form of a matrix where the data is 0 and 1. Now, what is this, nominal or what ordinal, or it is what kind of value it is there?
Ordinal.
Why ordinal? 0 and 1.
It's a
That is actually state representation. That means only nominal value.
Nominal, sorry.
Yeah, whether symmetric or asymmetric. Asymmetric. Asymmetric.
Asymmetric.
Yes. Now tell the dimension. What is the length of width and width of this matrix? Whether it's a fixed 100, 100 or 100 by 1000 or 50 by 200.
Into
Is not fixed.
Yeah, it is definitely not fixed. Depend on the size of the image, right? Or you can say that what is the resolution that you want to have it. Possibly you know the resolution, right? Same image can be stored in the form of a 100 matrix, and also can be stored in a 300 by 200 matrix or by 300 by 300 matrix. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, fine. So binary image is solved. Now let's come to the color image. This problem is solved if you can solve for a binary image. Okay, even the binary image, if there is no, okay, so there are 256 what is called the grayscale image. You know what is the meaning of grayscale image? So it is
Yes,
not
sir.
that, yes. So that also comfortably stored in the same way, right? In that case, instead of putting 0 and 1, we shall put 0 to 255 any value. Again, the same. It is a nominal, but the level is different, right? And you see that 150 and 255, they are actually the state representation of a pixel state, right? So it is, okay, they are actually. Now let's come to here. Again, if you see that, okay, I'll come to that. Many operations, so far things I'll come back later on. Now let's come back to the color image. I'm sure because some of you are already telling about 3D matrix where another color component red, or you know, the color can be defined using RGB, what is called the red value, green value, and black value, blue value, whatever it is there. So RGB, and then that value can be used to store it. So the 3D matrix is enough to store the color images. So this is the concept, it is there. Now, so this is now okay, we can understand about that whatever the type or dimensions, absolutely not an issue there. We can store it and we can have it and there. Now again, operations. An image representation is fine. We can store it and we can access it, we can display it, and we can enjoy. But the different operations, I want to rotate. I want to rotate an image from, say, a 90-degree anti-clockwise rotation, suppose, or clockwise rotation, or 30-degree rotation. Or maybe I want to do chopping, or I want to enlarge the document from smaller resolution to higher resolution and vice versa. So, okay, so whether it is very difficult task or a simple task, let me know.
It is simple task.
Exactly, very simple task. Only the skill that is required, what is the procedure of operation, that means manipulation of the different values that is there in your data storage or data cube, and then you can do that. So exactly like this, right? So you have to know the procedure, definitely to know these things, how the image rotation or the enhancement or the segregation, they are little bit image processing activities are there, otherwise nothing. Okay, but ultimately we are here in the, okay, in the domain of data specification. So data can be stored like this. And then again, if I ask you whether this image is similar to another image, yeah, that is also not a difficult job for you. Okay, you can compare. You can compare two images, right? Similar or this one, right? So
Yes,
that is
sir.
also quite possible. Okay, so whatever it is there, absolutely not a problem, but we will be able to store it. And whatever the concept that we have learned about, we can do that. Now let's come to the another concept. So it is a video. If you can handle text, comfortably could handle images, then a video cannot be cannot be controlled. You can, right? A video is what? It is a frame of several
Images.
images actually, right? And if you can display all these frame in a particular rate, so it is called the frame rate, then video can start moving, or animation or dynamic picture will obtain. So obviously, if I don't explain much, but with your concept, you will be able to comfortably manage the video data as well as the entire YouTube also should be at your fingertip only and can be handled and then can be processed. So this is the concept here, and this concept can be extended to many other scenarios. If we receive the data from many satellites which are beaming into our Earth ground and then can be processed, and they can be processed not only storing in only one server, can be multiple server, and all the server can be linked together and thus making a distributed system, which is an connected distributed system or network or the distributed network, and then processing of anything, it is absolutely not a big job. But the only thing is that is a very high volume data, high dimensional data needs to be processed. And that processing needs a special architecture for storing, and then special tools and techniques for right one. And those special tools and techniques, some techniques, some tools we will be able to, we shall learn in this course. Now, initial few discussion which I include in this, right? In this my lecture, you can find it in the book Data Mining Concept of Techniques by Han and Kamler. This is a very good book, and this is it is called the Bible of data mining actually, and it is published from the Morgan Kaufman. So very good book that you can follow it there. You have many questions, or you don't have any question that I don't know, but if you have any question, we have enough time, right? Completed my delivery, that is my plan for today, half an hour before. So, but I can discuss it. And there are a couple of questions I have placed here, so that you should find your own time to go through and then try to answer of your own. If you find the answer comfortably and you are confident, that is fine. If you have any doubt, you can discuss with your friend and you can treat me also your friend, me also your friend, and then ask me question, and I shall be okay in a discussion. Okay, fine. Any question?
Yeah, sir. One thing you mentioned about a couple of programming languages, and then finally we concluded on Python, right? So I think then all of us should focus on Python programming for this session.
Yeah, I should suggest it that Python programming is good for you, for business, for your career and everything. So Python is good. So you can go ahead. Okay, I'll give you some
Okay,
project,
thank you.
and you can solve implementing the projects in Python. Okay. But
Yeah, thank you so much.
many students who are not so, strong in programming, for them they can go for either R programming or MATLAB. Absolutely no problem. But okay, Python is the more customization is possible, more control over the data analytics is there. So you can go that. So Python is very good. Obviously, Python is highly recommended after the Python R, and then next is MATLAB.
Sir, I am not able to message in chat.
I am not also able to follow the chat box because I'm totally engaged into the slide presentation and everything. So please don't use your chat box or message there in there. Okay. You will not be able to follow if you are not actually that possibly I have disability. I don't know. Anyway, so it is not possible.